Welcome to Unlocked with me, Martin Daubney, the home of common sense that speaks Britain's language. When the government pulled the plug on the economy and locked us down back in March, it's hard to think of any part of the UK PLC that was so savagely thrown under the bus than the nighttime industry. In a heartbeat, the nation's empty clubs and concert halls became monuments to a cataclysmic failure of government. Silence descended where previously there had been music, laughter, chatter, and the clinking of glasses, the sounds that make up the very essence of human happiness. Figures out yesterday show that 650,000 people have already lost their jobs in hospitality, which is 1/4 of the entire workforce, not forgetting all of the furloughed staff marching towards zombie unemployment. Tonight, to discuss this, I'm delighted to welcome back onto Unlocked Alan Miller, co-founder of the Recovery Group, impresario, and founder of the Nighttime Industry Association. Also with us tonight is the legendary Harvey Goldsmith CBE, a visionary producer and promoter of concerts, charity events, and television broadcasts, who gave the world Live Aid, arguably the greatest ever show on earth. To talk about how the club scene has changed beyond recognition, we're also joined by pioneering house legend Danny Rampling, one of the original superstar international DJs. Next, DJ Lady T, who has become one of the finest house music DJs in London and beyond, helping to regularly sell out the Ministry of Sound, Pasha, Scala, and many more. Finally, we are joined by Joe LaGroove, an American-born DJ, music producer, and vocal artist who began DJing aged just 13 and has become a much-loved London fixture after gaining a residency at Turnmills in 2002. So what I want to get from all of our guests tonight is a sense of the years BC, before COVID. What did life used to look like? What have we lost? And can we ever get this party going again? So at this point, I want to pass on to Alan. Alan, let's get the party started.
Thank you, Martin. Well, you know, we hear the numbers, 100 billion for hospitality, millions of jobs. But actually, I think we should talk today, and I'd be very interested to hear from you guys, some of the personal stories, as well as the big numbers, the big stats. We know even one stat, you know, you've given one, Martin. Another one is even in these tiers that 21,000 pubs in tier 2, of them, only 14,000 cannot even be open because they only do wet sales. And when we talk about these things, people think about jobs, they think about the economy, but actually we're talking about livelihoods, we're talking about all of the relationship of different businesses, we're talking about communities, society, and individuals, and the impact this has. And, you know, all of you guys, and I want to hear from you each in your own view on this, but all of you guys know that these events are where people come and they fall in love and get inspired. It's where we get the next Stormzy, the next Adele. And without that, we really are missing something existential. This is not about just numbers and figures, but of course it is about that. But it's also about the kind of society we're living in and what that's going to look like as we want to come through this and come out of it. So, I mean, I'd like to get straight over to you, Harvey, you know, if we can. I mean, tell us a little bit about just what it's meant, lockdowns and the tiers and the kind of up in the air element of not knowing. Tell us a bit what that's looked like and what that means for you, Harvey.
Hi. Cities thrive on their nighttime economy. And when you and I first met, I just came off a commission looking at the future of the West End. And one of the key factors we looked at for the future of London was how vibrant its nighttime economy was. We don't have one today, it's gone. So we've had no work since really day one of the lockdown. We have literally no work. And we've been trying to cajole the government to look at our industry. It isn't about how much money can we screw out the government. That's not what it was all about. What it's about is how do we get back to work? Yeah. We're a positive, we are risk takers. We are in this business to make things happen. And most people in society like being together. They like sitting in a restaurant and talking to their friends. They like watching a theatrical show. They like going to an arena or a concert hall to listen to music. They like to go to a club and dance. They love it. They like to be together and enjoy it. We understand fully the reasons why of all the difficulties with this virus, because it spreads like wildfire. We understand that fully. But our message and what we're trying to do, and what we've been trying to do for the last 3 months, is to get the government to focus totally on how we can get back to work. How do we create a safe environment? How do we create a bubble that's safe, that people can go and carry on and enjoy themselves? We believe it can be done. The government, whatever they believe, I don't know, but they're not letting us do it. And we keep saying to this, set a target date, let's work backwards, and let's figure out what are the protocols we need to put in place to create a safe environment so we can get on with our lives. Socially distanced events don't work. They don't work emotionally, and they don't work financially. So all that focus on that is just a waste of space and time and effort. Focus on how do we create a safe environment for people to get back to work. That's our message.
You know, it's really interesting because I was at Parliament Square with you this week for the Hospo demo. We made a hell of a lot of noise to let them know that we were outside. We were banging drums, we were whacking pots and pans, we were shaking cocktail shakers. A guy had a big clanks on. And you know what? I want to pick up on a point you said there, Harvey. All of those lads and those ladies were saying to us, weren't they? All they want to do is get back to work. They just want to get back to work. They don't want handouts. They don't want freebies. They just want to work, Alan.
Well, we have one of the most professional industries. The operators are world-class leading, like Harvey, and our efficiency and our ability to operate safely and meticulously is just incredible. It's world-class beating. And it's so frustrating. And I think that's the thing. Harvey, tell us what it means, really, in reality. How can anyone plan for anything? How could you plan for a festival? How could you plan for an event when it's all up in the air like this? Is it even possible?
Well, we deal with the art of the impossible. You hit it on the head just now when you talked about the experts we have. We have the best of the best in the world in how to get people together. We can build a city overnight. We can put up a town for 50,000 people in 3 days, make it safe, secure it, and take it down again. We do that. And yet what do the government do? They consistently go to people who don't have a clue about what our industry is, who've never been at a show, have never been to a load-in at 7 o'clock in the morning, don't understand the safety procedures that already exist in place. They find what I call the good, the great, and the useless, and they give them the control over it, which makes us even more frustrated and not get the job done. We have the experts. All of us are experts. We live in clubs. We live in venues. You've got a group of people who are on this show tonight, all of whom know more about how it works in a venue in their little finger than these government consultants and the people they go to will know in their lifetime. Go to the experts. They know how to do it.
I think it's a really important point, and we're going to get to hear from the rest of you guys on this as well. But one of the reasons why I wanted to be involved, and we got, was a co-founder for Recovery, was because it became increasingly frustrating. I think, in all honesty, at the start, the government was really willing to listen, and they no one really knew what was going on, and there was they wanted to be adaptive. It became clear that everyone was in a silo, and they weren't really listening anymore. And it's so essential what you said, Harvey. I mean, there's people that got so much expertise. You think about the Olympics, for instance, how they, that whole idea of that we the people, everyone coming out and volunteering, and how it was so much national pride, events everywhere, and that's really kind of indicative of what can be done and how we can do it. And yet we've been shuttered and stifled, and there is a complete kind of incoherence. And I think it's really important that the viewers as well have their voices heard, that they actually write to their local MPs and councillors and say that, they want to see, we want to get some clarity about when things can open again, a proper plan, and also that we've already demonstrated that we can open safely. So I think those voices are heard, and that's important for recovery, and it's important for everyone.
Yeah, and it's a really key point. If you want to get involved in this debate, please use the hashtag Time for Recovery. Send us your comments. We're live on the Daily Express, Thanks to them for supporting this. They are right behind this campaign to help unlock the nighttime industry. Harvey, before we move on to Danny Rampling, is it ever possible, if you think about the value that you place on the nighttime industry, on our creative arts, it's not just a money thing, is it? No. Britain is best at this. Britain has been best for generations, for decades. What do you think the impact is going to be on our creative arts and our nighttime industries if we just turn the tap off like this?
Well, put it this way, with the mayor's initiative on trying to stop people coming into town with the congestion charge 7 days a week till 10 o'clock at night and all that bloody nonsense, which is even more ridiculous, and coupled with the fact that the government won't address the issues that cities become deserts when they're shut at 6 o'clock. That's all you got to think about. What is it like when it's shut at 6 o'clock? It just doesn't work. There's no soul to it. And we want to put the soul back into the city.
Yeah, and you know, we've been coming into Unlock since we were allowed to work again, and it's just been deserted. It's been heartbreaking just to see these cities abandoned, never mind near closing time, but even at rush hour, there is no rush hour anymore.
Well, one of the things on that, I mean, putting the soul back into the city is a master stroke strapline, Harvey, and we should push that out to everyone. But many of the people that we've worked with, and I know we've campaigned with people in various cities in Manchester, Glasgow, Bristol, with mayors and local leaders, they've come on board and become passionate about the need for hospitality, nightlife, that they're the central hubs about making the dynamic, lighting up the streets and society. We got away from the discussion of antisocial behavior and crime. And then now what we've seen though is that there's I think that there's such an amount of fear and concern in some quarters that does not represent the data. If we remember the last set of stats that came out, there's less than 3% transmission from all of hospitality. We are really professional and efficient and safe, and always have to think about the customers. It's something that we think about all the time, and as Harvey said, and we're brilliant at doing it. So I just think that this has become so much more decimating, and the consequences at the level of jobs and livelihoods and British exports and who we are, the soft power that Joseph and I talked about. You know, when people think about us, when they think about the music, they think about culture, and they think about advertising, fashion, all those things can't happen with what we're talking about. It's going to have massive consequences, and we need to get back open again.
Absolutely agree. Now, I'm going to move on to our next guest now for Ken. We're on a tight timeline, but Harvey, I want to come back to you and all of the rest of the guests on tonight's show. At the end of the show, I want you to send a message to Boris Johnson. Let the guy with the Wurzel Gummidge hair know what you think. Let him know what he's doing to the nighttime industry, and please, no expletives. We're a family show. At least I'm sticking to that line. Now then, let's move on. Danny Rampling. This is my all-time favourite CD, the LaGroove. Yeah, the LaGroove Dance Party.
That's right.
I bought this three times, mate. The first time it got stolen. The second time it got worn out. The third one I've kept hold of. Let's just say I'm a big fan of your work, Captain. Massive fan of your work. And that was before I saw you swimming in the Bleeding English Channel this week. I mean, you are as hard as nails, mate. You're in the paratroopers, right? I like this guy.
Keeps me on track.
Right, Danny, what I want to get from you is a sense of, we've seen it in other sectors as well, and that is there's a lack of empathy or understanding from the public. It's like, well, you're a superstar DJ. You fly around the world, you know, get the small violins out. But before we move on to the impact of what the lockdown has had on you, can we get a little bit of a flavour about what life was like before COVID for Danny Rampling?
Well, I was in Australia and Asia at the beginning of the year, and I was on New Year's Eve this year, I was so excited about this new decade, and no one could have ever imagined the position we're in now. And in the last decade, I went through 5 years of a very challenging financial situation, set of circumstances for half of the last decade. So this decade was a time of renewal and optimism and a pathway forward, developing a business, Shoom, which is a club that I run. Events booked for this year. Everything was looking great. My diary, DJ diary, bookings every weekend, everything completely gone. Which for a lot of people in the industry it knocked us all off of our feet. And for a couple of months, I have to admit, I sank into a depression. It really did affect me through experiences of the last decade, and then this happening, and a whole year of work just gone. And there is no end in sight right now. There is no roadmap. We need a roadmap. The virus itself, yes, there are so many precautions and measures being put in place, and the restrictions, and it is being contained to a degree. But where is the roadmap for the hospitality industry? There is now talk of another tier 3 in London, which is going to be catastrophic for the hospitality businesses that are open in London or hanging on by a thread. So where is our industry heading? It doesn't appear that we do have that support from government that, as Harvey said, give us a date and we'll work backwards from that date, and let's put something in place. We have the safety measures. As Alan said, the NCIA have been working very closely with the government to the reopening of nightlife as a whole. And now we're back to square one with no firm roadmap in place. All we have right now is high levels of uncertainty, job loss, and businesses who are perilously close to the edge the longer this goes on.
I wanted to jump in there because I mean, some people of a certain generation will remember all of this, but I often talk, when I talk to some of the police and others, and young people as well, I try and give them a little trip down memory lane about what Britain used to be like, because a lot of things are thrown around today about what Britain's like, but the kind of society we lived in that was very violent. Every Friday and Saturday people would be out fighting, that was really racist and a range of different things. And Danny Rampling and Shoom was one of the things that helped transform and was a catalyst to transform Britain, along with people in Manchester and elsewhere. That whole acid house explosion where you could get, you know, black and white people all together, gay and straight, men and women in a completely different way, ending all that fighting. And it went globally, went worldwide. So you listen, if you're in Bali or if you happen to be in Paris or wherever you are, you listen to the music, the landscape now, it's been so indelibly informed by our movement and by this music. And it's so integral to what it is. You think about the fact that Storms is on the cover of Time, or, you know, any of these things. You think about the awards we have every year. Now, what I suppose I want to ask you is like Harvey's point about, you know, the socially distanced events don't work. It strikes me, and this is, I know that, and I'm talking now in the context of recovery and everything, because I know trade associations get nervous as well, because, you know, there's this sense, even when you're a venue, you can't say too much because you can be penalized because you've got a license. But these things have to be said. I mean, we know that, you know, that the majority of people, and it's very sad and they have to be protected, but the majority of people are in their mid-80s that are actually fatalities, and they have to be protected, and it's really important. It's also the case that we can get back and have events. You know, the thing about Shoom and other clubs and festivals and the sort of things you all do is when you come into contact with people, and that whole thing about dancing and eating and drinking and everything, that's something special and exceptional. And if we lose that, and if we have then a discussion like we've seen with security about surveillance everywhere, and we try and have this legacy of masks and distance, which some people are now presenting, even though we've got a vaccine, and that's going to be catastrophic. And I think it's really important that everyone speaks up and says that. And I'm wondering, Danny, what you think about that whole sense of how important it is when you actually commune, when people come together in a party, in a club, and an environment like that.
Well, it's powerful and it's a human need, and it creates a lot of opportunity at the same time, and it's very integral to our well-being. We go to the gym and we go to dance classes. You know, dancing and movement is a human need, and it underpins our well-being, from ballroom dancing to salsa to you know, Strictly Come Dancing to dancing on a dance floor in a club or a festival. All of this is important to society and society's well-being, and this is missing from our lives, and it's not doing anybody's mental health any good. Mental health statistics are rising, irrespective of comments that mental health is not, statistics are not rising. that's not correct information. And I think we have to have that in our life, that we all need to dance. We all need to dance. We need to celebrate music. We need to sing in church. People go to church to sing. It's a transference of energy, a release of energy. It's a feel good endorphin, and it does amazing things for us as human beings. The power of movement.
I've got a point I'd like to put to you, Danny, and everyone else. Have a think about this. I reckon this is something more. This, I think, is a bit of a war on the working class. And I'll tell you why I say that. Because all this stuff about substantial meals with your beers, all this thing about nightclubs, I don't think any politicians go to pubs where they just have a few pints. I don't think any politicians go to nightclubs. I don't think they understand these worlds. So I think they're convenient worlds just to throw under the bus to show that they're doing something about COVID, when the actual contagion rates and the risk of dying of COVID in the age groups who go clubbing is almost bloody non-existent, Alan. And yet here we are with I think, a new puritanical movement of out-of-touch politicians. What do you reckon about that, Dan?
Well, it feels like hospitality has got the blame for everything at the moment. That's evidently clear. The restrictions are worsening. And as you say, the substantial meal. Well, not everyone, has got 10 quid or whatever it may be, 15 quid to spend on having something to eat when they don't necessarily want something to eat in a bar or a pub, just to have a drink, 1 or 2 pints or a glass of wine with friends and social interaction. So what is all that about? It's...
I was going to actually...
Yeah, Holly.
If I could jump in very quickly. We did win a point over with government last week, because what we said to government was, if you go to a show, it's like having a meal. And the whole idea of the whole problem with the alcohol is that if people drink too much and there's no food attached, they start to loosen up, they start to get all over each other, too close, whatever. That's all it's about, is trying to keep people away from each other as much as possible. I have sympathy, because clearly this is a dreadful bloody virus. There's no question about it. And it does a lot of damage, and it travels like wildfire. So you've got to think about it as well. But I still believe we can create safe environments that people can still get out there and enjoy themselves.
Well, I wanted to say that, Lady T, you've had a background. Tell us a bit about it. But in growing up in pubs and bars, and then also obviously becoming a worker in hospitality, as well as a DJ and performer and promoter, you've also run venues. Tell us what it was looking like for you just before the lockdown happened, and your experience and your view of what's happened.
Well, basically, before the lockdown happened, I was just in between changing jobs. I'd left a job in hospitality, which I had been in for 4 years, and I was happily in to do a better position. I had a job, my dream job, working as a bar manager. So I'm starting my new job in a club, which is something which is a dream for me. So I went to start, and I think I started in January. That's right, I started in January, and I built up to 3 months of, promoting everything that I had, promoting this club. And then all of a sudden March came along and COVID hit. And the guy who was running the club, who basically said to me, look, at the end of the day, we just have to shut down. And basically what happened in the end, we had pre-warnings. So we were sort of being really precautious and everything, but then the more restrictions came in, and we thought, there's just absolutely no customers out there. The word got around that coronavirus hit, and absolutely no one was actually even coming in the club or anything. So by that time, we were thinking, what can we do to make, maybe just do it during the day? We were trying to keep the business alive. Maybe do a coffee afternoon or something, just to keep, because we knew we were losing the people at night. So during the day, we'll have coffee. It's a club, but it was like a nice place in the middle of the town center where people could just come in maybe for a cup of coffee and a croissant or something. Anyway, that didn't work. In the end, the guy who basically hired me, he basically said, look, I have got no alternative but to let you go. And I'd literally been working in the hospitality, the previous job that I had. I went back and asked him if could I have my job back there, because this guy's just sold, the club. And they said to me, absolutely no, because we're literally losing so many staff due to COVID, and we can't hire you back because, so basically I was in that job for 4 years. I went to start a brand new job, thinking it was my dream job. And then COVID hit. That's it. Now I have to go back to square one. Also, in the other industry of me being a DJ, I used to play out every weekend. That's completely gone. I'm literally in a situation where I'm thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? I've actually had to ask the government to help me, because I'm in a situation where how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to survive? And I've always paid my taxes. I always had a job, paid my taxes. But I'm now in a situation where I've actually now had to help, universal credit to help me. And it's so destroying. It's so destroying, because we want that our clubs open. We want people that, are around us to come out, and their mental health issues, suffer because they're sitting at home and they want to go out and socialize. We want to make it safe for everyone. Of course we do. We don't want to spread the coronavirus, but, like the industry with, hospitality, where they're bringing in these brunches where you're socially distanced. Why can't they bring in to clubs where you can only have so many? I mean, you've got your capacity in clubs. Maybe you could have less capacity, but how do you work it out? It's hard, but I also feel for both industries that I've, in, and also the people that I've always been around. They're always coming to me saying, I miss you. I can't wait to come back. I can't wait to get on the dance floor. I can't wait to dance.
Well, that's exactly the point.
Basically.
Yeah, I've been with you, Lady, where we've been at parties and everything. The feeling of togetherness and the importance of that in people's lives. People look forward to that for the week, to the month of getting together, and they get through their lives. And I think your what you just explained in terms of people feeling on tenterhooks and not knowing what their future's like. Freelancers have been eviscerated. They've fallen through the gap. People that are DJs, tech people, promoters, a range of them. I mean, Joe,
look at Facebook. Sorry to interrupt you, but look at Facebook. They've even locked us down. Us DJs can't even go on Facebook and do a live show without being threatened that we're going to have our Facebook thingy pulled down.
Yeah.
And that's that's a little bit disheartening for us. We're just trying to entertain everyone out here in a world where everyone's stuck indoors, and we're not even allowed to do live streams on Facebook without getting penalized. That's just disgusting to me. I don't get it.
Well, Joe, the last time we met in public was when you've been among your many talents, and like DJ, producer, promoter, musician. You also was artistic director at Jerry Calabrese's new place in Shoreditch, which for people to know is like one of those amazing venues that we just do so well, right? That you go in and you're like, wow, this is a great place in an area that's very rundown and industrial, and it's epic and it's exciting and great food, and they do great nights in different spaces. And you're just excited to be there, and you're thinking, gosh, I'm so lucky to be in a place like this and this is happening. And Joe LaGroove walks in and he's the artistic director, and you think this is bang on. All of that's gone, right? And to Lady T's point, we actually in August, the NTIA demonstrated to the government that you could get at least 75% capacity people into venues with air filtration. Fell on deaf ears, right? How's it been for you, Joe, this last period? And how do what's it look like?
For me, it's been crazy because I've always done just various different things. I do voiceovers. I've worked with BBC and Sony and so forth, producing, artist management. I also, a lot of people, besides music, they know that I do marketing as well. I've been doing that for like 10, 12 years. So even up to being director of marketing for a venue, which we launched a couple of years now. So going into this year, I was excited on launching. We're not launching. I have a live project with one of my friends, a long-term friend called Jack on Black, where we play keyboards live and everything, just a full live show. And we had about 7-8 festivals booked. I was also putting a tour together to go back to the States and play all across America. And this year was kind of like my major comeback. So, you know, I've been playing abroad, but not so much in London over the last few years. It's been picking and choosing my gigs. So this year, like Danny, this was my year. I'm like, this year is my year. And I know this sounds like the same story for so many people, but this was my year. And then I remember when lockdown happened, I was like, okay, well, the government should have a plan for this. They must have some sort of contingency. There's no way I would have ever dreamt that we would be in this position now. And I'm not talking about across the board, because people are still going back to work. There's these funny, like, gray areas of stupidity from the government. Yeah. Now, I know that Harvey said, okay, it's to do with food and your drinking, and none of this has been conveyed to people. It's like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and then you're going to do, and then the whole society is just sitting there thinking, I don't understand why. Why? There's too many whys and not enough solid reasons for conservatives' actions, which have been placed. And I think they've done a terrible job handling it. I don't care what anyone says. You can be a conservative lover. Yeah, but that means you're brown nosing. I'm sorry. They have not handled it well. And they've outsourced it, paid another company to, like, okay, we can't handle it. We're being paid loads of money, but we can't handle it. Let's outsource it to somebody else and pay them loads of money so they can give us some data and inform us on stuff that they're not really in the place to
well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm sure people and the viewers would have seen, but you know, you saw Patrick Vallance said when he was pushed on this, he said, well, actually, the decision around curfew and also around that was not based on any scientific evidence, because how can
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And it was a policy decision. So he gave two things away there. One was there was no evidence, even though we're meant to be following the science, which is obviously not what's been happening, but also that SAGE are deciding policy. Now, we have elected officials, right, in this country, and we vote for them. And then, but they seem to have outsourced their responsibility, right? And how can it be that they're making policy decisions? Surely our elected officials are, who we should be holding accountable. And these are questions I think that the viewers and others should raise with their local MPs and councillors, because they're really, really crucial. Yeah, and if you want to get involved in that, then just put your comments on Facebook. You know, we always go through them, and if they are directed towards MPs, we make sure they get them, because we like to annoy MPs. It's a part of what we do on Unlocked, and we've had great results before. They tried to cancel Remembrance Sunday, and we complained so loudly, and we got the Daily Express involved. They changed their position on that, and we went to the Royal Artillery Memorial, and we got involved with it. So we can get things changed by coming together. Joe, I wanted to ask you about the state internationally, because of course lots of British clubbers will spend their summers going to Ibiza and other places. Presumably they're shut up shop too over there.
It's complete turmoil across the globe, and I'm not really sure. It's not just in the UK. It's not just in the UK. Just everywhere. There's this stupid idea, which is it's not backed by any science. Once again, it's just policy, but it's almost like this global policy plan. And this is nothing to do with conspiracy theory, but globally, let's close the clubs, close the restaurants, close this. The 3%. The 3%'s there. They've got the data, but yet still, stuff's shut. People are losing businesses. And as Alan said, it's based on policy. You know, it almost sounds like they've got SAGE there. So when they come out of it, they have a scapegoat to go, oh yeah, well, you know what? We kind of outsourced it to them, and they advised us because, you know, they gave us the best advice, and it's not proving effective.
Well, one of the things I think that you'll be having John Dobinson, who's co-founder of Recovery On, and next week, and the viewers, you'll be talking about SAGE and the importance of having an influence there as well, because SAGE is this kind of slightly nebulous thing. It's not quite clear exactly who and what, but you know, to the point of international. I mean, Sweden seems to me had a very reasonable, rational kind of response. They didn't say it was nothing. They said it's a thing, but we need to keep the economy open. We need people to still come. They had up to 50 people meeting. And some people tried to lampoon them and mock them and say they were irresponsible. You notice it's interesting when people want to challenge something, they don't want to interrogate the idea or illuminate it and have a discourse. They want to throw accusations and try and shut people down. Well, Sweden held the line. They have, you know, someone who was pretty clear, techno about the approach that they had. And it's interesting, it's fascinating, because if you look at Berlin and other places and how they've actually demonstrated in terms of having venues open and doing things and You know, there's examples of case studies around the world where things can be done, but because of an approach and a view and a narrative, right, there's taking an approach. And if people are more honest, and I don't, a little giveaway, right? I always try and say to elected people, be honest. Don't try and pretend. And if you get it wrong, how about you treat the public with some respect and say, you know what? Like when you have a friend do it, I got this wrong, but this is what I'm going to do now. You'd have a lot more sympathy, and you wouldn't get rid of it right now. And I'd be interested to hear what everyone else thinks. But it seems to me that there's a problem with trust right now, because people, quite frankly, are confused, as you said, Joe. You know, Harvey, your point about, you know, how we do things, the industry no longer trusts people in business. A lot of people don't trust the government. A lot of people now don't know who to trust and who to listen to, which is very dangerous as well, right? There's this sense that you can't trust anything that people say in politics, which is a problem. And we've cried wolf about certain things. And it just seems to me that we have to get very specific and have some transparency and honesty. And actually, we need to get back open again whilst protecting the people who are most at risk.
And I think on that point, Joe,
yeah, sorry. That's a good idea. I'm sorry, it's a good point that you brought forward. Now, Germany, they've had their lockdowns, but then they're like, well, actually, we've crunched the data, and we can have restaurants and clubs back open. So they just went, okay, let's just do that, and they did it. And you can trial things, but what they did to this country is unforgivable. Unforgivable. It's clearly unforgivable, and because they shut everything down, as you said, with policy, no data. So people have lost jobs. People have killed themselves. There's depression. I mean, at the moment, I'm at my aunt's house. When my mom died when I was younger, I came from the States, and my aunt and uncle looked after me. I'm here looking after her. Throughout lockdown, she's by herself. My uncle passed away. So she's not the only one. There's millions of the elderly, which they've been left alone because of isolation. I mean, even now, I haven't hugged her for weeks. I come around here, I do some stuff. But they've killed the industry. They've killed people's livelihoods, people's depression. They've done it the wrong way. And I know it sounds like a punchline, but it's time for recovery. They need to give us a roadmap, as Danny said, some sort of roadmap to show us that they're actually thinking about the future of hospitality. Now, imagine if there was no hospitality, what they don't care about at the moment. Do you think all these different people would come to London in this vibrant city? What would be vibrant? The only thing that would be vibrant would just be like sightseeing, wouldn't it? It would, like, our culture would be gone. That's what everyone knows the UK for. That's why I still live here. I don't live in the States, because of the culture, because of the people, the music, and the vibe. Once you take that away, the UK is not the UK anymore.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mean that was very, very well put. And there's nobody on this call, and I suspect people watching will disagree with anything you just said. And I do think that these human stories, are the ones that need to be told. And I commend your honesty there, Joe, because we're all human, and we're all hurting, and we just want to work. We just want to crack on. We just want to be allowed to get back to our former lives. We just want normality to return. I think it's as simple as that. This isn't a revolution. It's just let us do what we did before and just leave us to it and stop bloody interfering. I think that is what people are thinking. Now, what I want from you guys is moving on to some key demands. So what is it? It's like a 5-point plan for recovery that you could think about, Alan. But before that, let's roll up our sleeves, let's cock the barrels, and let's deliver those messages to Boris Johnson. I'm going to start from the top of the show. Harvey Goldsmith, message to Boris Johnson.
The nighttime economy is the soul of a city. Without that soul, a city's dead.
You can't put it any clearer than that. Danny Rampling, message for Boris Johnson. Fire away, Captain.
Bring the confidence back into our city centres. There was pictures all over the media at the weekend of people shopping in central London. It shows that confidence is returning. So let's encourage that. Let's get our cities and the economy of those cities, the nighttime economy, open in a safe way, as we have all agreed, and let's get our cities back on track. This is so important, and let's bring this fear, this hysterical fear, down It's out of control. People are in such high levels of fear that it has broken the confidence of people to come into city centres. But looking at those pictures on the weekend, it does appear that there is a change in thinking, that people are prepared to come back into the cities. So let's work together and let's have that roadmap in place for 2021.
And there's just so much talent out there that's just being stymied and stifled and contained. It's just such a treacherous waste of talent. That's the main thing. Lady T, you've been waiting very patiently. I think you've got some fire in your barrels there. Message for Boris Johnson.
I would say my message to Boris Johnson was be honest, open and straight with us. Don't mess us around by telling us, you know, this tier, the next tier, you know, be honest, tell us, you know, and, you know, try and think of some strategy where you could bring back the hospitality and the nightclub industry back to a balance where we can all, like, be safe and get it back as quickly as possible, because it's affecting a lot of our mental health out there, and a lot of people don't realize that it's just the DJs and the restaurant owners. It's the small businesses that are losing everything, you know, for, you know, just waiting for what? We need an answer. We need clear, you know, clarity. That's really what we need.
Superb. Joe LaGroove, message for Boris Johnson, sir.
Okay, so the UK is the world's first to accept and to administer the vaccine. Why can't the UK be the Great Britain, the UK, and be the first to recover their economy and have a plan in place? Now you've got this vaccine, yeah? Have a plan in place to recover people's jobs and the nightlife, and to return our cities to the vibrant place. Not just London, but Manchester, Leeds. There's so many great cities around the UK, not just in England, around the UK, which are driven by the cities. Yeah. So show us what's going to happen. Don't wait for more people to lose money, jobs, and lives to then go, okay, everyone's free now. You got vaccines. You can start doing what you're doing. Because at the moment, they're saying you're giving us money. We don't want handouts. We want a plan. And you're still evading that. So stop evading it and be a man.
That's a great way to put it. And do you know what? Yeah, I thought you were clapping your hands so hard there, Joe. I think you might need to send out for a doctor. But look, the thing I would like to say is this. Every single time we have an episode of Unlocked, we just say to Boris Johnson, listen to the people. We said the same about Brexit. We said the same about hospitality. We said the same about pubs, about extremism, about lockdowns, about the vaccination. Every single topic we've covered, we just say, listen to people like this. Actually get out of your bubble, go to people who understand, who are experts, who've got the temperature of the nation, who are suffering hardship. Listen to them. Stop having cloth ears. That's all you got to do. Stop talking at us and start listening to us. Alan, message for Boris Johnson.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, you said that you were bounced into the lockdown. And I think that really you need to take responsibility. If you can be bounced, I'd like to bounce you into recovery now. I think that the people of Britain deserve it. And there are 5 reasonable demands that we've got. And one is to behave with humanity, to think about the humanity of everyone. The second is to give equal regard to all lives. So whilst it's very important to protect people from COVID, it's also the case that we've got people with cancer and stroke and heart disease, pre and postnatal, and mental health issues. They all need to be considered. And we all have, I'm sure, many stories of people in our immediate vicinity that have been impacted. Tens of thousands of people are actually being killed by some of this policy-wise. We need to have a proper inquiry, Mr. Prime Minister, about what's happened, to get into the granular details and the nuance of this. It's really important so we get clarity, and we can't allow this to become the new normal for whenever there's a risk that we're faced with. I think we have to recognize that there's many things in quality of life as well as quantity of life. Our freedoms and our liberty are not things to be flippantly dispensed with, whether it's COVID marshals or arbitrary, unscientific rule of 6. You can't just keep knee-jerking these things and imposing them without having a clear, honest debate about the efficacy of them, what are the costs and what are the benefits and how we deal with them. And let's get the economy moving again, you know, both in terms of education and the impacts, particularly on young people, but for everyone in society. They've been enormous. We are all in this together. Remember that? Remember that thing, we're all in this together. Remember how many millions of people volunteered? That is who we are. We're not these ignorant, stupid people to be patronized and be to given wrong graphs and to be bounced into things. So please treat us with due respect, be open and honest with us, and let's get into recovery, because it's time for recovery.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to put you guys on the spot now because Harvey, you're one of the very best in the history of humanity at throwing parties. We got some talent on this show tonight. Can we, when we're allowed, organise the mother of all parties, when we're allowed out this bloody mess, let's unlock parties and let's get going again. Can we do that tonight, guest?
Of course we can. And we're
already.
Now I'm going to hold you guys to this. And Rampo, I want to see you again with your arms in the air, just like in the 80s. I mean, I think I remember it. But, you know, you've been an inspiration for me for decades. Like Live Aid, the best show on earth. We can do this again. Alan's at the helm. Now, I know you've got a brilliant organisation, Recovery. We've got so much talent. I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, guys. I want to end on a positive note. We always try and end on a positive note because all of us just want to get back to work. We want to get partying. We want to hug our friends. We want to kiss our mates. We want to drink some beers. And we want to do things we're not allowed to talk about on a family show. But we want to have fun again. we want to get our lives back on track. So thank you for watching Unlocked tonight. Sending out a huge amount of love to all of our guests. Good luck to your auntie there, Joe. You're doing a sterling effort, mate. Love you to bits. I love the honesty on these shows. Yeah. It's just honest humanity. Please share the links. Follow us on Facebook at Unlocked United Kingdom, on Twitter and YouTube at Unlocked_UK_ We're the new kids on the block. We've been broadcasting since the very, very start of the beginning of the lockdown. We were the first to kick back against lockdowns before it was fashionable, because our hearts are in this. We want to end this misery. We want to unlock Britain and get back on track. Thank you for watching Unlocked. Take care and good night.